Hey guys, welcome back to Tactical Pontoon. There's Gaston. You can see him in the background. He's obviously not working, so definitely terrible employee. So, welcome back. I'm James, and I'm here in the Trigger Cave uh, with Gaston. And what are we here to talk about? Well, we're here to talk about a trigger. What trigger is that? You see Agency Arms, and let's let it do its thing. Maybe. Nope. Nope. There it is. The Syndicate. That took way too long. There we are, back in focus. The Syndicate drop-in trigger. Now, Agency just released this line, which really is their budget line of they have a slide. They have they've collaborated with a couple different stipplers, including Dave Mods at Gun Fu for polymer 80 lowers that have been drilled up for a complete gun. So, like I said, it's not exactly a budget line per se. It's just a little bit different from what they offer in their standard Agency Arms builds. So, with that being said, the Agency Arms Syndicate trigger is what we're going to be taking a look at. And just to kind of sum it up and not take a lot of your time, because really there's not a lot to this. Let's be completely honest. The Syndicate trigger is a polymer version of their aluminum trigger. It's literally that simple. Let's see if this will kind of, probably not. It's literally the same trigger. They have the same form factor. They have the same reduction travel slot back here. The measurements are the same. This one is polymer. The Syndicate is polymer and has their little S on the side. See if we can see that. Has their little Syndicate S, whereas their standard shoe has the Agency A. Don't know that that's going to show up real well, but that is just about the difference. Other than that, they are exactly the same. These two trigger shoes, while being made out of two different materials and two different weights, are the same. The Syndicate and the Agency, there's no difference. So what do you get when what is the benefit to buying the Syndicate or the Agency over one another? Well, really it comes down to price. The Syndicate is about $60 for the trigger shoe and a trigger bar. Now I've disassembled them because I will be replacing this trigger bar. Because, not that it is a bad polish job or something like the Lantac, which was tumble polished horribly. It's just that due to Agency being a little bit, I mean, look at it. It is a beautiful polish job. I actually, before I started this video, after I had taken the bar off and I had one of my bars, it took me a moment to realize which one was which. Normally my polished bars are better than any of the others, and not to get a big head over things, but normally I can tell my polish job from others. But it took me an extra minute or two to figure out which one was which. But the final thing that showed it to me was right here. The tab that rides on, let's see if I can get this in, the safety plunger. That would be this guy right here. That's the safety plunger that rides in the slide, which keeps the striker from moving forward in the event that you drop the gun. So agency has a very, very aggressive cut to this. Now, they do that to kind of be a fix-all or a safety net for a variety of different frames. Unfortunately, they went too aggressive, and you will find in multiple videos, Johnny Glock has a really good one on an agency trigger. I'm not sure if Mike Mills at Tactical Consideration really went through this, but I know he had an issue with his, and that is when this tab is so aggressively cut that they have literally taken height off of this tab, you run into the fact that when it is in place, because it does not have the correct height, it's not pushing this plunger up far enough out of the way at the right time, and that striker actually can impact against this plunger. Now, it may not impact enough where it stops the striker from doing its job, but it can actually score that striker, and over time either wear the striker or wear the plunger, and it actually can cause an unsafe condition, or in some cases it's enough that the striker just won't do its job. So with such an aggressive cut, you run the risk of, on some frames, it harming the striker or stopping the striker from doing its job. Not all frames. For some frames, this will work perfectly fine. From my experience, the reason why agency would do this is because with such an aggressive cut, they're going to fit more frames safer and easier by being this aggressive. That's the reason why this is done the way it is. Now, I can understand having an aggressive cut. I do that in my own triggers just to maintain a safety margin with the striker, which is, in my humble opinion, the striker plunger safety or striker block safety is the most important drop safety that there is. So here is my trigger bar right here, and you will see while it is an aggressive cut to this, it maintains the height of this tab. It is aggressive, but it is not quite as aggressive as the agency. Now I'll try to get them up next to one another. Maybe we can see what we've got going on here. It looks very, very similar. Mine is forward closest to you, and the agency is farther back. So mine, agency. It may be a little bit hard to tell, but the agency is more aggressive and could possibly cause an issue in certain frames. Not all frames, but it is something that could cause an issue. I will say again, their bar is polished really, really well. It really is. So that's a quick rundown on the Agency Arms Syndicate trigger. There's not a lot for me to say. If you are an Agency trigger fan, you will like the Syndicate. If you are not an Agency Arms fan, you will not like the Syndicate. If you have had problems with an Agency Arms trigger, you will have problems with an Agency Syndicate. That's the short and long of it. I've talked about agency triggers in the past. I am not against an agency trigger. However, if I was going to buy an agency trigger that I personally would run, it would be the Syndicate because it's cheaper and it's the same thing, which means what I have to fix on them is cheaper in the long run. So from a drop-in perspective, do I give the Agency Arms a thumbs up? Yes and no. For me, it would be yes. For just a drop-in, it's really going to depend on your frame. So the other thing that I do want to say, without droning on, the Syndicate trigger, just like a factory Glock trigger, actually has, and for me to remove the bar, I actually had to drive through the plastic because, like a factory trigger, it's dead on one side. It deads on one side. So I had to carefully knock the pin out through the plastic. So it is not one that's easy to remove, but it is possible to remove and put another trigger bar on. So that is it in a nutshell. I don't want to waste too much time. The Agency Syndicate. For me, it's not too bad. Is it right for you? Depends on if you like agency. All right, we'll catch you later on Tactical Pontoon. Like, subscribe if you will. Leave your comments on the bottom. Have you had an issue with agency in the past? So, anyways, we will catch you later. This has been James at Tactical Pontoon.